Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are using some Halloween items. This is Sweet Halloween, the Happy Haunting stencils and dies, and then the Too Cute to Spook. So this card was for my sister. Her niece is having a baby, and the theme of their baby shower is like, because she's due in October, is like Halloween, but like a sweet version of it. So I thought that, putting this together with maybe like some more subtle colors would make it more of like a softer, more muted, like sweet side of Halloween, versus kind of like the bolder, like spookier side. So these stencils, the Happy Haunting stencils, are made to be layered. So I did like the really soft spider web in the background, and then I'm going to be doing the rest of my inking with Distress Oxides because they do dry back softer. So that's going to add to that kind of more muted palette. Plus they layer really nicely, whereas like Distress inks are more transparent. Distress Oxides, because they have the pigment properties, are more opaque. So this is going to work better for us layering over that spider web background. So here I did start with the pumice stone for like my white areas, but I do eventually go back in and add a little bit more white to them because they just weren't popping like how I wanted them to. So anywho, that's how we're putting the things together. Some other just like housekeeping things to mention. Tomorrow's World Card Making Day, so there I'm sure are going to be some special things. I will try to link them over on my blog. If you're not familiar with the website is kellytaylorcards.com. I will link that below. So I will try to be updating that with all of the fun things that I see going on. Here, I started with the wild honey, but it was a little bit too bright. So I ended up switching to the dried marigold again because those oxides don't really mix. They layer on top of each other. That's super helpful for changing the color. So they do, each product definitely has its pros, even though I do prefer inks to oxides. But that's just because typically I like a brighter color. And you can make any of these more bright by putting a layer of white underneath them. I've done that in the past. I'll try to find a video to link at the end where I have done that. But anywho, so then the other thing is, in my live the other day, we were talking about like this beeping, and several people are like, oh, I always hear it in your videos, or I always hear it in your lives. Like it's like this, this beeping. Well, what I figured out is it sounds like a very long beep, but it's actually it's my laptop. It's the coil whine from my laptop. So today I am trying something different with where I am recording. I am recording facing a different direction than I normally do, because normally I face my laptop so I can watch the video. Now I'm facing the monitor so I can still watch the video, but it's not right on top of the laptop, so you'll have to let me know if you can't hear it or not. Doing some research, it doesn't really sound like there's really anything that I can do about it. Sometimes it just happens, like that electronic whine that happens, and there really isn't anything to be done about it. So anywho, so here I wanted to do two separate colors. That's where these kind of smaller detail brushes work really nicely for the stencils. So I was able to do my greens in the bundled sage, and then I was still able to go in with the white to do the clouds. Now that white was still not like popping how I wanted it to. So I am going to go back in and try a different way to define it. But anyway, I do have a story time to go along, and this video is shorter than my other videos. So I'm gonna tell you my story. So you guys, if you've been watching my videos or if you've been watching the lives, you know that I have recently had an upgrade in my my technology, like my setup here, because I've always had like where my camera was either on first when I first started was PVC pipe, and then I ended up upgrading into like an actual camera rack. But so it was very limiting on what I could do. Also, for the purpose of the live streams, I did have to add a monitor, which needed to be mounted to the wall. So before, the monitor just sat on my desk. Well, it was taking up quite a bit of room. So I was teaching for an event, and I was trying to get all the things done before the teaching happened. And my husband, he wonderful, because like, unpreparedness on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. And in this case, he totally stepped into the challenge, even though the emergency was not his fault. Was not his fault. So on Saturday, he hung my monitor. And so I like had to clean off my desk and all of that. And he came in and hung my monitor, and everything worked, really, really well. And I was super excited because like the desk was cleaned off and everything else. Here, let me go back to the card real quick. So here's where I'm like, okay, I need something else to define these whites. So I'm going to go back in with a white gel pen, and you can trace the whole thing if you want. I didn't. Like I did it more like kind of sporadic, where like I just did like maybe the top of the clouds and then, the bottom line. And then I also went back and did the ghosts as well. This really helped them kind of, pop forward. I also added a little bit of yellow to the moons to set them apart from the white. Anyway, so that was on Saturday. So then Saturday night, I was in here, I was working, everything was really great. And then Sunday, I took Jelly Bean to swim. And while I was at swim, my husband was going to hang my ceiling mount for my camera. And so he was like, hey, can you get your glass mat where you want it? Because that's what I'm going to center your camera on, was my glass mat. And I'm like, yeah, that's no problem. So I had picked out, like I had already pulled out all the items for this particular card. And they were sitting on my desk. So I came up, I centered my glass mat. I was like, okay, super excited. It's going to be so good. And then I went and I took Jelly Bean. While I was gone, my husband and my son hung the ceiling mount for my camera. And so then when we came back home from swim, he was like, hey, can you come look at it and make sure it's all good? And I was like, yes, it's wonderful. Thank you so much. Back to the card. So here I'm going to cut because remember I want everything to be like a little bit soft, a little bit sweet, not too spooky, like, hey, little pumpkin kind of Halloween, not like Halloween. So I'm cutting the shadow from Too Cute to Spook. I'm cutting it out of vellum, and then I'm going to cut that out of black, and then also 2 or 3 times out of white, so that I can stack it up. So anywho, I came upstairs and I was like, yeah, everything looks great. I was like, but it smells in here like burning plastic. I was like, and he was like, I don't smell anything. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like over here by the desk, like I definitely smell something. It smells like burning plastic. And so like he was like, I don't think I hit anything. Is like, there's electrical that runs through, the ceiling, but I don't think that I hit anything. And I was like, well, it definitely didn't smell like this yesterday. So there was like some conversation about it or whatever. Well, then we kind of moved on. We had to get, the kids lunch and everything else. So get them lunch, get her down for her nap, and I come back into the craft room and I was like, it's getting stronger. Like it's getting so strong. I'm very nervous because it was leading up to the week that he was going to be out of town. So of course I immediately go full drama. Like, oh my gosh, if we have an electrical fire in this house, like it's going to be me and the kids and the dogs, and how am I going to get everybody out? And rah, 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 rah. So anyway, I had gotten up early with the Jelly Bean, so I decided I was going to take a nap. So I laid down to take a nap. I was so paranoid about this, like my house catching fire, that I had a dream about it. And I woke up to like this beeping and I thought our house was on fire. Like, you ever have that? Like, sometimes you're in such a deep sleep, you wake up and you think you missed the bus, but you're 40 and haven't been to school in 25 years. Anywho, so I like got up and there was a beeping, and it was because my husband was trying to set up my live stream stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, it still smells so bad in here. It's like terrible. And, So I go back, I finish taking my nap, I get up, and we're like, he's trying to show me all the things that he set up. And I was looking to set something down. Like I wanted to set something down on the desk, and I have an L-shaped desk. So we have, like, I don't have a lot of real estate between the laptop computer and then like, you know, I told you this monitor, the area where I work with the glass mat. I have like my markers over here, and of course, because I'm a crafter, like I'm a disaster, and so I always have things like stacking up, distress inks. Right now I'm looking at half Copics, half Olos, some product that I used for another card, and then some like paper. Back to the card real quick. So here I am going to put my sentiment down before I glue the vellum, because I don't want you to be able to see the adhesive. So as I was doing all of my chit-chatting, I'm sure that you noticed, like I'm doing like a series of small dots. This is to help make sure that the adhesive doesn't like seep out, so that you can see it on the vellum. And then once I get that down onto the vellum, then I'll be able to flip over the whole piece, and I'll only put adhesive where the Too Cute to Spook goes. Side note, can I tell you that I knew I wanted to use this sentiment, and I knew that I owned it, but I couldn't find it. And I have a lot of clear buckets that are Honeybee product, because I've been with them for a very long time. And I had to go through my buckets two times before I found it. But I was determined, because I knew it was perfect. It was perfect for this little baby card, you know, with the more subtle theme. So here, this was a mistake on my part. I'm adding some shimmer to the items. And so because Distress inks, Distress Oxides are water soluble, when you add the glitter pen to them, you can move the ink around. And so I started kind of adding the ink around to some of the other items in the background. But I wish that I had not. Using stickles or something would have been a better plan, because then you're not smearing the ink around. You're just kind of putting it there, and then it dries in place. To make this sentiment stand out and make it kind of a little extra special, I went in with my glossy accents and went right over top of that black. So that way when it is dry, it almost looks like an enamel sticker. So it's nice and shiny. So we have this subtle background, and then, you know, the shiny sentiment. I used, what are these from? I think is it from Fall? I don't know. Is it from Fall is in the Air? Now I gotta look. It is. It is. The Fall is in the Air gem stickers. He's been living on my desk lately. And so I thought that was going to be the card, but it felt like it needed something else. So one of the cool things about the Happy Haunting stencil set is it does have a coordinating die that you can get. And so then you can cut out individual elements. I've used this one before to make a couple of different cards. And here I learned my lesson about how I liked the white gel pen. So I didn't move the stencil before I did that. And so I'm going to cut out a little witch's hat, a little ghost, and a little bat. Here I did the hat and the bat, but I had the stencil in the wrong direction. So make sure that you make sure when you're stenciling that they are in fact in the right orientation for your die to cut them out, because mine were flip-flopped. And so, anywho, so we're in there, and, you know, I'm like, it's getting stronger. Like the smell is getting stronger. I'm very apprehensive about, you know, where the smell is coming from. Like it smells like, is it the camera? Is it the post? Is it, you know, whatever? And I was like, well, it can't be the monitor, because he hung the monitor yesterday. And so we're like trying to find all of the things. And, so I'm moving things around my desk so that I can what was he doing? He had the Stream Deck or something, and so I wanted to move the things to set something else down, and so this pile of items was on my desk, and so I picked them up to move them and nearly screamed bloody murder because all of a sudden there was like burning melted plastic on my hand. So what had happened was at some point when we were moving all of the things around, it very well could have been me. I don't know 100% how it happened, but the items that I had picked out, these items here, had gotten set on top of my coffee warmer, and my coffee warmer is pressure plate. So it's like it doesn't go down and turn on until there's weight on it. So apparently these items weighed enough to trigger the pressure plate. And then for hours and hours and hours, it was just on right where the items were. And thankfully, I mean, I did end up burning myself, but thankfully the dies were on the bottom. So it didn't actually ruin any of my things. Side note, back to the card. So I did put these on, and because I had stacked that sentiment, I did end up using some foam tape to stack up my little hat, my hat, my bat, and my ghost. So anyway, so the dies were on the bottom, thankfully, which kept anything else from being ruined, but it was definitely it was definitely burning. So thankfully, like, we weren't having an electrical fire, but also I totally fried the packaging. I'll show them to you here in just 1 minute. So here, this is my card base. I am doing the scoring in the middle of the card base, and then I am going to do my sentiments. Here it is. Do you see it? Those two were the ones on the bottom. Anyway, so I did end up burning myself, and I had to run my hand under cold water for quite a bit of time because the metal was so hot. But yeah, I thought we had started an electrical fire. Turns out we had just been, negligent in where we were placing things. So anywho, so I used the Sweet Halloween to put on there, like, Spooktacular Wishes, and then we have the baby inside sentiments. They have a lot of inside sentiments that are really great, but I chose one there and stamped it inside, so that my sister, could send it off over to her niece for her baby shower. And so I am just going to glue my card front on. I typically only make fronts, and then I don't glue them to card bases until I actually need them. But when I do glue them to bases, I make sure to line it up with the folded edge. And that is because I can always trim it on the outside edge, but I cannot trim it from the folded edge. You know what I'm saying? So this is the full card. I hope that it inspires you to use your Halloween products maybe a little bit differently, a little bit, more subtle or sweet. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.